Either we are there or not, ITSP Magazine still gets the best stories. There are plenty of conferences and all sorts of events that spark our curiosity and allow us to start conversations with some of the world's brightest minds. In person or virtually, we sit down with them at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Together, we discover what the synergy of these three elements means for the future of humanity. Knowledge is power, now more than ever. CrowdSec, the collaborative and open source cybersecurity solution. Analyze behaviors, respond to attacks, and share signals across the community for free. Let's make the internet safer together. Learn more at crowdsec.net.
EdgeScan offers continuous vulnerability intelligence as a service, accurately identifying vulnerabilities and exposures across the full stack. All threats are verified by cybersecurity experts, providing exploitable risk and remediation guidance, virtually false positive free. Learn more at edgescan.com.
Pantera, the leader in automation security validation, allows organizations to continuously test the integrity of all cybersecurity layers by emulating real-world attacks at scale to pinpoint the exploitable vulnerabilities and prioritize remediation towards business impact. Learn more at www.pantera.io.
Marco.
Sean, you taking a selfie?
I was going to say, should we start with a selfie today? Let's mix it up.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, here's the selfie, everybody. Kind of look silly. Ooh, we have props even in the selfie. Look at that.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Nice. The DEF CON coin, challenge coin there.
So I'm wondering, Sean, how does a selfie works on a podcast? Do we do some weird noise? Like, if it's audio only, the selfie.
We all talk like dolphins and whales. Are you ready?
I don't know how to do that. I'm not that kind of oceanographic expert. Anyway,
I scuba dive, and I think that dolphins are actually meaner than sharks.
Really? But do you speak dolphin?
Most definitely not. I speak bubbles.
I can barely speak English.
I wonder if dolphins speak English, but that's not why we're here. And I'm pretty sure that where we're going with this, there is no ocean.
Speak in binary.
Yeah. Is there an ocean in Las Vegas, Sean? Did they just add one?
There is. Yeah, it's
in the desert.
It's the Hoover Ocean at the base of the dam.
It's the flood at casinos.
Oh, the flood, yeah.
That's
true too.
Yeah,
wasn't too long. Hopefully things are dried out in time for Black Hat and DEF CON, which is what we're here to talk about. This is our chats on the road to Las Vegas Hacker Summer Camp, where we get to speak with keynotes and speakers and organizers and friends and family from far and wide from around the world. And today we have the Blue Team Village on, and we're introduced to our good friends muteki and OMENScan through another friend who's been on quite a bit, Russell Mosley, who is one of the organizers for the Blue Team Village as well. And muteki, OMENScan, it's great to have you on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, really appreciate it.
So a lot going on. A big year for both Black Hat and DEF CON, 25th and 30th.
25 and 30, yeah.
Respectively. And
big year for us. We're Blue Team Village 5. So
look at that, 5th year anniversary or 5th birthday. And a lot has changed in the last few years. Not just pandemic, but technology and how we look at business and how we run our businesses and attack them and defend them. So we're excited to talk to you about the work the Blue Team is doing to help companies and individuals succeed in their defender role. So before we get into it, let's a few words from each of you about who you are and your role in the village. And muteki, we'll start with you.
So I'm a techie. I've actually been a volunteer for Blue Team Village. This will actually be my 5th year involved with the village, ironically, how old it is too. I have a kind of a mixed, interesting background of different careers in IT, and then only recently transitioned into cloud security, which is what I do currently. And as part of the village, I have been involved in kind of creating our mentoring program. And then this is my first year doing in-person organizing, which has been quite an adventure. So I've really loved just getting to see people get connected all around the world and have access to the information that we're able to get to them.
Nice. And OMENScan.
Yeah, thanks. So I have gray hair, so I've been around the block once or twice. I have a pretty extensive background. I've had the opportunity to do some really cool stuff. 16 years at NASA, 7 years at Lockheed, 8 years working for Live Nation, and now just really excited to be working for IBM. I'm also with Muteki, was there at the first Blue Team Village, volunteered, and have the incredible honor that to be asked to be involved with the board and help coordinate, and just I can't say how fortunate I've been, and a big part of that is being able to be around some great people at Blue Team Village, just a spectacular group of people.
Well, this is
and Russell. Spectacular people and Russell.
Well, don't make fun of people that are not here. Come on, they cannot defend themselves.
Our co-director Russell is actually Smokem. So Smokem is the he's the top one, and then Russell's the other one. Split personality.
That's right.
That's true. He'll get a kick out of this anyway. So a lot of birthdays here, 25, 30, those are big numbers, and 5, of course, is as well. But what I would like to know is there's been a lot of changes. I mean, this industry is based on change, really quick, really fast. And I'd like to know if you can give us maybe OMENScan a little background on what it was when the village got started 5 years ago, and what is it now? What is it change fundamentally, or maybe fundamentally the same thing?
What a great question. So 5 years ago when we started, that would be DEF CON 26 back in 2018, and it was really a group of folks much smarter than me getting together and saying, well, there should be some defense stuff happening at DEF CON. There should be some representation. And the way we approached it, and the way we continue to approach it, is that hacking just doesn't happen on the attack side, right? There's a lot of hacking on the defense side. And so, we felt bringing that story of all the great hacking that's done, that defenders do, is something that, the DEF CON community would be interested in hearing about. That was 2018. Then 2019, we really we had Blue Team Village After Dark, and we had the badge, did just a spectacular badge, super fun. And we continued to grow. And then, 2020 safe mode, when COVID happened, we had to think of how do we continue. There you go. Yeah. We had to think of, how are we going to continue to serve this community that we're building, right? Because we're all about the community, all about learning and inclusion, and, everybody gets to play. It doesn't matter your level, where you're at. We wanted, everybody involved. How do we continue that? And I think Muteki can talk a lot more about when we went virtual, right, for 2 years. And now here we are, DEF CON 30, and we're taking those two, the virtual and the in person, and putting them together. And from my perspective, I don't think we're ever going to go away from that again. It's going to be hybrid for the foreseeable future. But Muteki's been really involved on the virtual side, so I defer to her to talk about that.
Yeah, from my perspective, the history of the village is, Omen said it absolutely beautifully. I remember just being a wide-eyed volunteer who wasn't, wasn't very experienced in the security space, and obviously since then I've gotten a lot of experience. But I remember, BTV being very open to beginners, very open to people making career changes. Like, I'm a serial career switcher, so I understand what that's like. And I mean, when the pandemic started, we really saw this like really drastic shift into meeting virtually. And to be honest, from my perspective, that actually opened a lot of borders, which was kind of the whole point of BTV to begin with. I mean, yes, we were not just the first village to introduce the defensive side of hacking, but also we were a space that was really focused on bridging the gap between, people who are experienced with technical subjects and people who are trying to actually, develop those skills to begin with, who, for whom often the career path of least resistance is actually, a little bit more on the corporate IT side, which is innately going to be defensive. So moving to virtual was kind of this natural progression where we got to basically open the floor. And, so I started and ran and currently run a mentoring program. And I think I have mentors and mentees on every single continent, except for Antarctica. No one's checked in from Antarctica yet. But, I've got someone in North Africa. I've got someone in South Africa. I've got Malaysia. I've got Australia, plenty of people in India, some China, all over Europe and all over the Americas as well. So, and for those people, the pandemic actually brought this opportunity to get access to information that previously was you have to be in Vegas and then you get to register for this workshop and it's not recorded and posted. And now like we're, running virtual workshops this year and they're already pretty much sold out because there's still this demand for access to that knowledge and skills that's attainable for everyone. And to me, that's like a perfect synopsis of the whole history of Blue Team Village being about getting people in to learn and access to that information.
And we'll send Marco to Antarctica so you can have a check-in from there.
Perfect.
We'll do our part. I want to talk to both of you about what you learned. You both have said the defensive side of hacking. And I don't know if you can switch that hacking defense. I'm wondering what do people learn? Because I was years ago I used to build products and test products, and you could test the interface white box, or you can test black box and get down in the code and break stuff that way. Is that a good way to look at defensive hacking? Or what are people learning? Because the whole point of the village is to bring people together, share thoughts and teach each other, or share things with each other, right?
Yeah, I think so. If you broaden the idea of hacking, like I always tell people, the greatest hacker I ever knew was my grandfather, who didn't know anything about, the PC hadn't even been invented yet. But he could take anything apart. He could take parts from one thing and make something else work. He had a garage full of parts. If he couldn't fix something, he would disassemble it and keep the parts in the garage. And on the Blue Team hacking side, I think what we see on the blue side is blue teamers using all sorts of tooling to be defensive, right? Using some of the red team tooling to be defensive. The whole area of digital forensics, right? Operating systems they don't have digital forensics as part of their design, but blue teamers have found these different pieces of information in machines that can show activity or show what has happened on a machine. And so it's this idea of reusing things in a way that they weren't originally designed to be used. And so that sort of showing people, this is how you can use something to accomplish a goal, even though it may not have been designed for that. And then moving beyond that, like, now, how do you think in that way? How do you think in terms of, okay, I am working on something and the tool I normally use isn't working. What can I do to get the same information, right? Having that mindset of you're not really just someone that uses something in the way it's supposed to be used, but you're using what's available to you to accomplish a goal.
Yeah, I know. I love the reference to your grandfather, and I always think of Galileo as a great hacker because he took a telescope, he made it better. He didn't invent it, but then he reached the stars. So, Muteki, the digital transformation, I completely agree with you. That we had to adopt, right? I mean, not just the digital transformation, but the digital event, right? The virtual event that was like, yep, that's the only way to do it. And now it's going to be here to stay. How is that you can inspire, all these new people that can come in the industry and teach them, not only the people already in the industry, but actually tell them, hey, look, it's pretty cool what we do. How that works when you're not face to face with them in person? And I know it works, but I want to hear from you.
Well, I might be a little bit biased because I work in cloud security. So to me, everything that I could possibly do in security is remote automatically. So that probably gives you a certain position. But I mean, I think a lot of it just, it comes to discussions and more of the social side of things. So, for the mentor program I run, we have regular meetups and we'll have panel discussions about different topics. And really try to include people that are from different backgrounds and different places to kind of bring in this interesting angle to things. Because even things like, how you demonstrate your technical skills on a resume is going to be different depending on what country you're from or what region. And then some regions may be more concerned about, let's say if you're doing threat hunting, then that looks different depending on what geopolitical region you're in as well. So I think a lot of it is just exposure, and it's easy access because anyone, wherever they are, usually has some half reasonable, maybe, connection to the internet and can tune in and start learning about stuff that, they aren't exposed to on a regular basis. It even applies to being, in a rural area in the US, people being exposed to people that work in areas where there's a heavier tech presence. And then after those, after panel discussions, there's usually like a little social hang. And, I feel like at this point in the pandemic, most of us are pretty tired of, the digital happy hour, Zoom happy hour thing. Mm-hmm. But I think there's still an appetite for it because a lot of people just come and just stay quiet in the background and listen to conversations. Because again, they're about things that they're not exposed to. And because we're all a bunch of nerds, we wind up talking about different topics when people start asking a lot of questions like, hey, I've never heard of, this programming language or this tool. And then we kind of go down this rabbit hole. So it comes down to a lot of, I think, just inspiring the desire to learn, not necessarily just delivering the actual content that leads to that learning process. Yeah, and anything, I mean, whatever tools we have, I know Omen will be talking about Project Obsidian later, but a lot of the content that we've created as, for workshops and that type of stuff can be hosted in a way that it's accessible to people, as well as being, accessible remotely, can also be accessible asynchronously.
And Omen, let's talk about Obsidian. And as Muteki was talking about the tools and using them, I immediately went to the arsenal at Black Hat, where there's just a plethora of tools and a lot of open source stuff to help, I presume, red and blue teams and purple perhaps do what they do. What is Project Obsidian?
So Obsidian is something that we've been working on now for a couple of years. This is really sort of its kind of, grown up version, but it's been something that we've been talking about for a long time. And essentially what we started talking about a couple of years ago was, how do you provide a way for people to learn where they don't have to go to a classroom, they don't have to take time off of work, all of the things, the cost, how do you provide an environment where anybody could just jump right in I just, say someone read about this thing called digital forensics yesterday or malware reverse engineering yesterday, and they'd like to learn how to do it, but they don't have any way to do that. So what we decided with Obsidian was, we would create a fictional company. We built it all in AWS. We would bring in some attackers, some red team folks, spectacular red team folks that we brought in to compromise that environment. And then we would do all the things that defenders do. We would do an incident response on it. We would do digital forensics on it. We would do threat intelligence. We would do threat hunting. We would do reversing the malware, right? So we got all these people together. We went through an exercise of compromising the environment. And then everybody went back, all the teams went back, and they created content using almost entirely open source. There's some things that are not open source, but they don't get in the way. You can still do everything with open source. And we're going to publish all of that. So we're going to be doing walkthroughs in the village. We'll have stations where we've got some pre-recorded content where people can come see, those that are interested can come see how the tools are used in the environment. And then here's the data. We're going to give the data to everybody. And that does a number of things. It allows them to use their own tools, download the data, try it themselves, connect to our Discord, ask questions. So we have a large Discord community, and it's purposely very welcoming. We encourage people, hey, come join, ask questions, help each other learn, right? That data will be provided as new tools get released. You can take that data, try it out in new tools. I've already used some of the data in some tutorials that I've given. That data and that information, we're trying to go beyond just, you go to a classroom, you spend a week in the classroom, and then you go home and you have some notes and maybe some books. We're trying to create an environment where it's almost constant learning. Like, we're going to do this again. We're going to keep adding more and more content. People can ask questions. People can run their own tools. How come I didn't find what you found? Or how come I found something that you didn't find? And continue the conversation of almost like a continuous learning environment where, look, if you have a question, it's okay. There is no, you can only come if you can only join if you've got 3 years experience. Look, if you just heard about it yesterday, you downloaded the data and you're not sure what to do, come join the community. Let's have a conversation.
I'll say one thing I'll add to that.
Yeah, cool.
That is one emphasis that I particularly like about Project Obsidian is that, it's the same data with different perspectives. So, I as a cloud person, there maybe I know more about, a little bit about incident response in the past, but not about malware analysis. It's the idea of being able to approach the same data set from these different perspectives and learn how a different team does it, I think is incredibly valuable.
Yeah. It's a great point because it was something we really considered. Like, someone comes to the village and they're interested in threat intelligence, but they see reverse engineering. They don't have to go relearn a whole bunch of data. They can say, oh, I'm kind of interested in how reverse engineering works, and then connect with that view of the data, like Muteki mentioned.
Yeah, well, definitely the ongoing thing. It's something that we were just talking with other villages too. It's like, okay, there is the other 362 days of the year that is not DEF CON. And what is it? Are we just going to stop learning and then come back and reunite the community? I mean, the community is going every day. And I think that there is this important thing that Muteki was saying about having access even from Antarctica. I'll just use a VPN and pretend to be from there. So you have that. But let's talk now as we kind of wrap this introduction into what people can expect that can actually be there at DEF CON in Las Vegas, and the one that are actually following remotely. What's the core, like keynotes? What's happening there?
So we have Project Obsidian content. It's going to be in person in the village. As Owen mentioned, we have kind of two tracks, stations, whatever you want to call them, and a main stage. We'll have concurrent activities, both the walkthroughs and some of the pre-recordings. That's going to be from about 10:30 to 3 p.m. Around 3 p.m., we're actually switching over to do live in-person panels. These will not be recorded, but I'm actually really excited about this because I think as a community, we've been trying to get a little bit more hands-on content in accessible to people, in person as well as remotely. But talks often can be a little bit too one-sided. So we wanted to change it up a little bit and have something that's a little bit more interactive. And with panel discussions, we've got 5 to 6 panelists for each of these panels, kind of getting into a conversation about whatever the topic of the panel is. So we have a threat hunting panel. We have one about leveling up your security skills. I'm doing a cloud panel because love cloud. So we're going to get into a little talk about DFIR and how to architect and engineer around it. And then we have another couple panels. We have challenges in control validation, which Jake Williams is going to be running. And then we have one about developing a SOC. And then we have an incident response panel to wrap it all up, which is definitely going to be a fun time because that's always a good conversation. So essentially, the Friday and Saturday is kind of this mix of the hands-on side with Project Obsidian and then the in-person panels afterwards. And we're having a pool party Friday night just to keep it fun and light.
Wash it all off.
Yeah, exactly. And then we do have some wrap-up content specifically related to Project Obsidian on Sunday. It's a little bit more chill, but we will be open on Sunday as well. So that's all the in-person stuff. Virtually, we have 2 talk streams covering Friday and Saturday. Rather, it's one stream Friday, one stream Saturday. That's being held on the DEF CON Discord, which is the same Discord that was used for DC 28 and 29 last year. And there are 3 workshops. Like I mentioned, they're mostly sold out at this point, but I do believe we listed some wait lists as well. And we are running these as 2 completely separate events. So we're not able to stream anything into the village or out of the village at this point. That would be a dream. Give me about 20 more people and some more money and maybe I could do it. But so we do have that virtual offering as well. And a whole crew of very excited staff and volunteers to run both sides of that. So I think it's going to be a great time. And it's going to be something that anyone can participate regardless of where they are and what their comfort level with COVID is.
Yeah.
I love it. And it sounds like, I'm always interested in kind of the connection to all of this to business. And it sounds like some of the panels might start to touch on some of that as well. That'd be an appropriate assessment.
I think so. So the one we're having, I think Friday at 3:00 is it's dubbed Heavyweights, and it's essentially threat hunting at the highest level. So we have a couple great speakers that are up in the top of their companies running threat hunting programs. So we have Sharad from Proofpoint is going to be one of the panelists. I'm sure I obviously don't have all the names on the top of my head, but I think it's kind of interesting because it's like, we have Project Obsidian hands-on content about threat hunting, and then we have this panel that takes us completely, takes that and zooms all the way out to think of it from maybe more of a nation state level and from the business perspective a little bit. And then, for cloud too, obviously I can speak to that because I'm the person who's going to be moderating it. But, I'm also speaking at Cloud Village, and the Cloud Village and other very specific villages have, a certain focus. And we don't always have a lot of crossover. So when I think of like blue teaming the cloud, I'm thinking more about like defensive engineering, but also that DFIR. And I'm not seeing a lot of conversations around, if your company or your small business or whatever layer you're involved in, if you're already in cloud, if you've already gotten through laying your foundation down, where do you go from there? You're pointing your logs at a SIM, but if you're pointing them at Splunk, you're probably paying an arm and a leg because CloudTrail's like a fire hose. So, we want to dig into more of that. Like, okay, let's focus on this little bit more of the intermediate advanced level and really, try to make that a little bit more usable, actionable, and mature compared to where a lot of organizations are or people. And I think it's technically interesting too. Like it is, I think you get anywhere deep in the weeds with stuff like that, and we have people who have done cloud DFIR, so it's not just a theoretical conversation. But when when you have that kind of content, then you think about then you can probably apply some hacking skills to it to figure out how to make it apply for your specific situation in your organization. And then obviously SOC, the SOC as well, that's going to be from the perspective of people who have run a SOC before. So I think that's going to be a really meaty conversation as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of what Muteki has said. In addition, I would also add that, on the Obsidian side, we're looking at teaching people how to do something that happens every day, right? Using open source tools, but teaching the basic concepts behind it so that you can learn things that you can actually take back to where you work. But more importantly, I wanted to say that first, because more importantly, I think is what the work that Muteki is doing with Meet a Mentor, really connecting people to allow them to help each other advance their careers. I mean, I don't know of anyone else doing the kind of work that the Meet a Mentor program is doing. And maybe just as a final note, Muteki, you want to talk a little bit about the number of people you've gotten connected?
Well, I've definitely had hundreds participate. Rolled through a bunch of mentor-mentee matches. There are always more mentees available than there are mentors available, unfortunately. So it's definitely a slower process. But we're always trying to add programming and that community connection. I can probably think of at least 15, 20 folks from the program who have gotten jobs directly from connections built through that as well. Either they've just networked within the community, or their mentor or their mentee has been able to help them personally. Or worked on the resume and interview skills and things like that. And it's something I'm looking forward to kind of ramping up a little bit after the dust of the DEF CON planning has settled down a little bit.
It's great to see that happening, and thank you, Muteki, on behalf of the folks you've helped, I'm sure, for putting that together. I also find it interesting that and encouraging that we see folks crossing multiple villages, like you're working in Blue Team and Cloud, and we've seen others crossing ICS and policy, for example. I think those collaborations, those connections are super important. We're actually going to have Jayesh on to talk about the Cloud Village, I think on Friday. So I'm looking forward to that. Maybe you can crash that one. I don't know, Muteki.
Should think about it. I'm actually one of my panelists for my cloud panel, Tony De La Fuente, who's created a fantastic open source tool called Prowler. He's actually delivering a deep dive workshop at Cloud Village, and then literally running down the hall to join my panel.
There you go.
I can only think about a big global village. It's one village made of smaller villages, but how can they not be all connected? It's impossible to think it that way. But I love that each are specialized, but they all work together. Even the red and the blue team.
I like a latte with my croissant.
I would like to put one other shout out there, and that is one of our other panelists for our developing security skills panel is Tanisha O'Donoghue, and she's involved with the Girls Hack Village, which is run by the nonprofit organization Black Girls Hack. So I think that's an example of how I think DEF CON is really growing and really we're starting to see a lot of interesting villages that take on topics that really weren't maybe discussed quite as much 5 or 10 years ago. And I'm really excited to see where they go with it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's super exciting. And I'm grateful to have both of you on. We missed Smoke'em, but hopefully we'll catch him. I think we're going to try to pull a live stream together from the village, and hopefully he can join us for that, and perhaps you and others from the village can have a cameo appearance as well. So thank you both for this, giving us some insight into what's going on in the Blue Team Village. Very important topic. And for everybody listening, we'll certainly provide links to muteki and OMENScan, their profiles, so you can connect with them and the village and their Discord and the Obsidian project and a bunch of stuff, the Find a Mentor project as well. So thank you both. Thanks everybody for listening to this Chats on the Road to Hacker Summer Camp, and see everybody in Vegas.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Pantera, the leader in automation security validation, allows organizations to continuously test the integrity of all cybersecurity layers by emulating real-world attacks at scale to pinpoint the exploitable vulnerabilities and prioritize remediation towards business impact. Learn more at www.pantera.io.
EdgeScan offers continuous vulnerability intelligence as a service, accurately identifying vulnerabilities and exposures across the full stack. All threats are verified by cybersecurity experts, providing exploitable risk and remediation guidance, virtually false positive free. Learn more at edgescan.com.
CrowdSec, the collaborative and open source cybersecurity solution. Analyze behaviors, respond to attacks, and share signals across the community for free. Let's make the internet safer together. Learn more at crowdsec.net. We hope you enjoyed this episode of our on-location conversation. If you learned something new and this podcast made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.